Well, as Canada's economy remains a major question mark amid the Trump tariffs and trade uncertainty, our next guest is doing something about it. Daniel Debow is the former VP of Shopify and the founder of Build Canada. And Daniel joining us live this morning to talk more about the initiative here. So, Daniel, nice to have you on here because Canada's economy was front and center in the campaign here. Daniel, tell us about Build Canada. What's the philosophy here and what are you trying to achieve?
Thanks, Nick. Well, first of all, it's Shopify that I used to work, not Spotify, but don't worry, lots of people make that mistake. Build Canada was and is an effort from Canadian builders, entrepreneurs who have built companies to share their ideas in a constructive, positive way about how we can get going in building our country. And it's expressed itself in a couple of different ways. One of the most common is we built a website that published about 30 policy papers during the campaign recently on various topics about healthcare, energy, national pride, and so on. And the idea was to just share them with Canadians and share them obviously with both parties so that they would take them and use them in the spirit that they were offered, which is to have constructive debate about what we need to do, what hard choices we have to make in order to get Canada going again.
Daniel, is Canada ready for radical policy ideas? It seems our governments are maybe a little more risk averse and not necessarily into sort of doing something completely radical or out of the box. What's your sense of the audience there and how much they'll be listening to something that's, quote unquote, radical?
Well, I mean, look, that's a good catch line, but a lot of the policies are not that radical. They're common sense. They make sense. And I know for a fact we've heard during the campaign, both from the Liberals and the Conservative, the people in the policy organizations and some of the MPs, that they really appreciated the ideas. We put out almost 30 ideas because we didn't expect every idea to get adopted, nor did we think the way that we suggested it would necessarily follow through. But I think the spirit of, hey, we're in a time of crisis. I think I would ask our leaders to take seriously what they said during the campaign, which is we're in a time of crisis. The world is changing. It's not just Trump and the United States. Everything's changing, and we need to reset a course that is about building our country to be really strong. So I think Canadians have stepped up in many crises before to do bold things. We've lived through it ourselves, even most recently during COVID. We did some stuff I think we wouldn't have imagined that we could get done. And I think that we are definitely able to do that. We have to do it in a Canadian way, but I definitely think the country's ready. I'd say one other thing, we did some polling and there is broad support, 70, 80% support for making long-term investments in growth, for increasing our ability to sort of modernize our healthcare system, to increase access for pipelines. So I think actually they are ready for the opportunity to make some bold change.
Yeah, Daniel, you just mentioned the term Canadian way. What do you as an entrepreneur look at and consider when you say that term? What does that mean to you, the Canadian way?
Well, I think we have existing processes and existing structures, and we have in the past used them to make changes to our government, whether it was program review under Chrétien or Martin to reduce the size of government so that we would be capable of investing in the most relevant social programs. I think that's what I mean by the Canadian way. Okay. I think it's a consultative approach. I think we have to do it in a way that makes sure we bring along stakeholders. For example, if we're doing stuff about pipelines, we have to make sure Indigenous constituents have a chance to have real and meaningful input into the process. But what I do think is we have to sort of think, what is the new Canadian way? And we're in a time of crisis. That means we can't spend forever thinking and consulting and talking to stakeholders. We actually have to take action quickly. So I think there's a model, and it's a new Canadian model, and I think there's lots of examples in our society for that.
You sound really bullish on Canada's opportunity in this time of crisis. How bullish are you and how hopeful and optimistic are you that this will lead to something better, more meaningful, and more, potentially economically beneficial to the country?
Look, times of change are definitely times of crisis, but they're also times of opportunity. And I am incredibly bullish on Canadians. They're hardworking, they're practical, they stick together. And I think that as they understand both the situation that we're in and the reality of the choices that we have to make, I think Canadians are very optimistic that they'll step up. I spend a lot of time with builders through this project, and not just technology people in mining, in agriculture. And there's actually a lot of desire and demand to build the country to be better for everyone. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't want to have a great, strong, sovereign nation. We're going to need incredible businesses that are selling goods and services to the entire world and to Canadians to make that happen. I'm very bullish. And, look, I live here. I'm long Canada. I've made that choice a long time ago. And I think Canadians should be be optimistic. I mean, they shouldn't be. They should be cautiously optimistic, and they should hold our new government to account for what they said they were going to do. And I think that's a very Canadian way of doing things.
And I like the sound of that. I love your optimism as well, Daniel Debow, former VP of Shopify, and of course the founder of Build Canada. Daniel, appreciate your insight this morning. Really good to talk to you. Thanks so much.